safe.
Yep, and then AK Steel 69 said Hull's black to white inconsistency between matches has now evolved into many black to white swings within matches. After scoring freely at a point per minute in the first quarter, they eventually hung on for an important 2 points. Try scored from distance was a whole feature of the game. Ratu is fucking supersonic fast, as was Paulie's ability to instill panic in a defence, either scoring or as a foil from close range. Yeah, so definitely agree with what everyone said about how we looked very good for the first 40, 50 minutes, and then we let Salford back into it. Our defence went a bit awry, but it was a strange match because it was a really, really clean match. There was no dirtiness at all until like the 76th minute when suddenly there was this massive fight that seemed to come out of absolutely nowhere.
And it was a really weird fight. It was just like it was almost like a cartoon kind of brawl because all we could see was just arms and limbs flailing at the side and a little dust bowl in the middle.
Yeah, well, from where we were sitting, it was literally, like that game that you play where you put your hand on the table and somebody puts their hand on yours and then you on them.
Yeah,
It was like that, like a whole player, a Salford player, a whole player, a Salford player. But we couldn't work out what had happened, what caused it, or anything else. It was just like this pile of bodies. Um, yeah, which resulted in two yellow cards, Chris Green and Adam Walker. And then sort of almost in the next tackle or two tackles, um, Josh Griffin got sent off for a dangerous tackle, which he has picked up a one-match ban for. I think it was a dangerous tackle, but I think it was a mistimed dangerous tackle rather than a malicious dangerous tackle.
yeah, you could see that in his reaction. That in his reaction, he stayed down with the player to make sure he was looked after and make sure he was all right. He was clearly showed remorse and contrition right at the point. He knew the second he did it, almost to my eyes, looking back at it,
Yeah,
that he'd
and
done wrong, and he walked away with no argument.
yeah, and very quickly after the match, he tweeted about it, and Inu responded straight away and said, these things happen basically.
Yeah, it was bad timing, and it was the sort of red card that you, as a coach, that you can accept because that happens. The speed you're playing the game at, that sort of thing occasionally happens with that slightly poor technique. But it didn't certainly look like it was any. There was no intent to harm there. It was
No,
just
and
poor
and it was
execution.
nice to see that Inu didn't play for anything. He got up very quickly.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the best bit. He was all right. Whether whether if he had been carried off, for example, whether there would have been more of a ban attached to it, you don't know because it was sloppy. But I think a one match ban is sufficient for that.
Yeah, totally agree. Um, Individually, I know. I mean, Albert Kelly's stats are fantastic, and everyone's raved over him. But to my mind, he also messed up a try for us. Uh, Danny Houghton made a break and offloaded to Kelly, and Kelly did his usual dancing around, and then he was tackled by Hastings in the end. Whereas if he had just passed the ball, would have scored. I think he saw his hat trick ahead of him.
He
Um,
smashed it like a chicken nugget.
yes, but I mean Ratu's try. I don't know if you've seen that the length of the field.
Yeah, it
Like,
was, and again, he picked up pace. He didn't slow down.
no,
He was getting faster, and it's horrible if you're a defending player. You just see someone who's in front of you, and he's got 20 meters on you, and
and
he's
then he's got
getting
30
quicker,
meters and 40 meters.
and you're like, oh, do I have to look like I'm making an effort here? But there's no point because he's just going to get there long before I get there.
Yeah, yeah. And because last week Connor got an interception and then passed to Ratu, and he went about 40, 50, 60 yards or so, um, but wasn't full out full pelt. Whereas this one, to see him going the length of the field was nice, and to see him going with some pace because we've always been told he's got pace, but most of his tries early on were sort of take it and fall over the line. So that was really nice to see.
Yeah, and I think it's whether you can engineer more situations to exploit that, where he
Yeah,
can come onto the ball at pace and get that cutting edge. Because if you're to use him almost as a strike runner, then coming in and coming across field possibly, then you could use that pace, because by the time he got up to take the ball, he'd be running at a decent speed and would be quite. He's not someone that's easy to stop either.
No, he is quite a big lad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, other than that, I think Mark Sneyd controlled the game very well. That Salford scored a couple after Griffin had been sent off, and obviously there was a lot of space on the pitch with it being 12 against 11 players. But Sneyd's final kick-off took a beautiful bounce, caused Wellham to knock it on into his own player's head, which thankfully gave us the goal line dropout. And from then, we were safe.
Yep, so that's pretty much everything on that one, I think.
Yep.
So we shall move on to Saturday afternoon's game, where Warrington took on Catalan. It finished Warrington Wolves 12, Catalan 4. Sorry, 34-4, having been 12-4 at half time, in front of 10,015 people. They just nudged it over the 10,000 market. It's a good job those 15 people turned up when they did. And Chris Kendall was your referee for this one. In terms of statistics, Catalan were below 1,000 metres as a team and under a 90% team tackle success, which we know are losing numbers. Wire made over 500 metres more, owned 7 breaks to 1. So breaking all over the shop. In terms of that winning Warrington side, Darryl Clark did a try, 2 try assists, 5 tackle busts, 123 metres, looking very lively out of dummy half. Bryson Goodwin, another player in a fantastic game with 1 try, 8 tackle busts, and 139 running metres. Josh Charnley scored a try towards the end of the game and 149 metres, and Blake Austin taking a try, 7 tackle busts, and running for 100 metres. For the losing Catalan Dragons side, young Arthur Romano had a really good performance, cropping up, looked very solid defensively. He made 5 tackle busts and 120 metres in attack. Jason Battieri making 49 tackles, 14 of them from marker, and Benjamin Garcia 47 tackles, 10 from marker, and Julian Busquet making 43 tackles. As you can tell, they were on the receiving end of quite a lot of attack which they were having to make tackles for, and we had some fan views on this one.
Yep, Mike Dodd 22 said, the rain meant that my cricket match was cancelled on a bonus trip to the Halliwell Jones. Catalans had the upper hand in the opening 30 minutes of a tight contest between before Darryl Clark scored a carbon copy of his try against Wigan in the Challenge Cup a few weeks prior, and the Wire never looked back. A very positive display by Josh Thewlis on his wing, along with further good performances by Clark, Austin and Goodwin.
Yeah, Paul O'Brien, POV 1976, had a close first half before Warrington took control.
And Paul Chamberlain said, couldn't watch the game as Sky Sports Arena had labelled it as Super Rugby Union and it didn't record. Instead, I just watched any old Catalans away game from the last decade on YouTube, and that seems to have been representative of the performance.
Yeah, it was the Catalan greatest hits of away games, of score early, look pretty good, and then just fade away as in throughout the game. Yeah, I mean, Clark had looked lively from all game. Certainly, just before he took before he took his try, he looked very lively. That set, he burrowed through a couple of defenders to get quick play the balls and get in. And the try was classic. Really, it was a really nice play the ball from Bryson Goodwin. Got in quickly, got the ball back, and Clark did what he does and just shook his hips and pounced as he ran through. And it was just a very just carved open and was very good. Yeah, and again, Why just sort of grew into it. They just got into the game, and certainly as the second half then started, they really kept it ticking over and just kept scoring at the right times and just on the right sort of plays, just to really kill off any real possible sort of hope that Catalan might have had. Certainly, I thought Arthur Romano looked very assured chasing back, certainly when he was defending. A couple of times when he was having to take the ball out, either shepherd it over the line or get caught. The only one where he did get caught was where he took the ball low down on the floor in goal and had to crawl up to get it back in the field of play, but then got pushed backwards. Otherwise, he was going to be submitting to a voluntary tackle, so wasn't going to get penalised in any event. So he had to do something. He didn't have much to do. It did become quite a physical battle sort of as the second half moved on. But again, Catalan just making basic errors to give it away and just coughed the ball up too many times. Fluid Yaha, he gave a horrible ball away really in when they were getting into some decent positions, sort of starting to work together a couple of sets and some attacks. For Warrington, as Mike said, Fulis did very well. He got cramp later on towards the end of the game, but partly as he had done a lot of running, and he did look very good as a player. I think he's definitely one to watch. He looked quite assured in that position at fullback, and obviously had the support around him. But I think he's one to watch for the future. And then looking at those last couple of tries from Goodwin and Akaloaka, they both came from Fulis either getting hold of the ball or winning back the possession. So he kind of had a hand in the moves that led to those. That Akaloaka try was really hard work from him, a very individual one where he just proved his own strength and really drove his legs to move that ball over. And then Fulis at the end, just really proving it. And as he came off, he rightly got that round of applause for a fantastic debut for the kids. So he's one that I think we will be seeing a bit more of in the future if he carries on that trajectory.
Yep. So then we move on to Sunday, which the first match finished Hull KR 18, Wigan 19. At half time it was Hull KR 6, Wigan 14 in front of 8,010 people, refereed by Scott Nikolauskas. In terms of stats, it was a big running game from both teams with lots of players making over 100 metres. For Wigan, Sean O'Loughlin made 48 tackles, of which 13 were marker tackles and 114 metres and 5 offloads. Sam Powell with 55 tackles, Dan Sargentson with 1 try and 199 metres, just that 1 metre too short, and 3 clean breaks. Liam Marshall with 167 metres. For the losers, Craig Hall with 1 try assist and 135 metres, Jimmy Kinehorse with 1 try and 140 metres, Rob Mulhern with 43 tackles, of which 12 were marker tackles and 121 metres, and George Lawler with 40 tackles and 113 metres.
Yeah, we did have some fan views on this one, starting with Always in Our Shadow, who simply said the word golden. Shower or point, or what were you referring to there?
I don't know. Tom Andrews said, "What a bizarre game. Wigan probably deserved winners in the end. Another inept performance from Mickey Mouse in the middle. Was just the same Rovers we've seen all season. Flashes of good stuff covered by directionless, boring crap. Hope Kitten Lynette is okay. Looked very nasty and he didn't move much after it. Great to meet Mark and family before the game. Hope your first trip to Craven Park was a good one."
Yeah, just on that, I mean, I don't think you can have a go for one person for inept performances in the middle when how many players did Hull KR have in our middle unit? Paige says, oh dear, to be honest, don't know what Rovers expected really with the change of coach halfway through the week. Haven't seen Tom all weekend until after the match. Didn't dare talk about it. Already have 1 broken finger, don't need another one. I won't ask how you got your broken finger.
It sounds like there's certain helplines you might need the number for.
Or where the finger was at the time, who knows. His face said it all though. Glad he's at work tonight. Let the sadness and heartbreak disappear. Crying emoji.
And Mark Hill got in touch again to say Wigan were definitely the better side in the first half, but it was a different game after half time. Sarge, very good for Wigan, who lost Zach at half time after he'd already given up the kicking, which is something that